Hello and welcome to the Mindset and Mindfulness Podcast with me, your host, Sandy Powell.
Welcome to today's episode, and today's guest is Brenda Denbeston. She's a keynote speaker. She's a STEM coach and mentor. She recently won the Australian Mompreneur Award, and she's also a mom of two. Well, welcome, Brenda.
Hi, Sandy. Thank you so much for having me on your podcast.
Yeah, thanks for coming. I mean, it's been a while. We met, I'll say May, like about 5-6 months ago, and yeah, and since then you've been flooding my newsfeed. You've been busy. Like, I don't know, speaking engagements, awards, photo shoots, your own podcast. I mean, congratulations. It's amazing.
Thank you. It actually doesn't feel like 6 months, but it also feels like, how are we already like almost at the end of the year? So
right.
Yeah, I'm glad that you've seen me and you're acknowledging. So I appreciate it, and I truly receive that.
Yes, no, it's beautiful to see you shine so brightly. I really, really love that.
Yeah. Thank you. One of the things that I'm really passionate about is around visibility. So I love to be able to take a bite of my own medicine and showcase what does visibility look like. And it's especially can be quite challenging, when you hold multiple hats and you're doing the juggle with all the things, which I'm sure we're going to dive into shortly.
Yes. But first, I wanted to ask you, to tell us a bit of the backstory. Like, how did Brenda become Brenda, right? Like you said, I mean, I'm sure some of the listeners may not know you here in the States. So if you could give us a little bit of a snippet.
A little teaser, a little taster.
Yeah.
Yes, so I'm originally from Zimbabwe. So I was born and raised there, and moved to Australia when I was 18. So packed my suitcase, packed my bag, came without the parents, and in search of an education. So I came over to study chemical engineering, and I did that at the Newcastle University here in Australia. Very, very different, very much culture shock at most of the steps of the way. But I found a little tribe that I could call my own, a little group of other people who had migrated and were international students who I had roommates with them, housemates, and we all sort of gathered together at a similar church at the time. And so that sort of helped me to form community and form a network when I moved to Australia. And then as part of my work, I moved to Sydney, moved to South Australia. Those who may be familiar with Australia's geography, I went to a little small remote town which had about 5,000 people as I worked in the mining industry. So that was very fun. And then I moved back to Newcastle to have a baby because I met my husband in the mining industry. We got married and moved back. And then since then, we've moved to Melbourne, which is one of the main cities in Australia. And we've now got 2 little boys. And throughout my journey, I guess, as an engineer, I was always sort of the only one in a number of respects. Maybe the only female, the only one with an African background, the only one who's a woman of color in a leadership role. And I wanted to sort of see who else is out there who is in a leadership role who I can sort of look to. But there weren't many there. Mm-hmm. And so this sort of got me onto this path of like seeking out network, seeking out mentors, seeking out to understand where are these women and how they got into where they've gotten to, because it wasn't like university where you just study and get good grades and you get rewarded and then all is good. Like you're working hard, you're doing extra hours, but there wasn't that return. There wasn't an increase in role. There wasn't an increase in pay. It's like, what's going on here? What is the secret? And this started my journey for personal development and career coaching and all of this. And I started to unlock that and climb up the ladder and find myself where I am today, which is, helping other women, coaching and consulting, helping businesses to attract and retain more women and to empower them to craft careers they love, whether they're a mother, whether they're a migrant, whether they're a minority and to face some challenges. I love to flip them on their heads and help them to reframe and recreate the pathway they love.
Wow. So inspiring. I mean, there's so many snippets. I don't even know which one to dive in first. But the first one that sparked my interest was like, how did you end up in Australia? I know you, like, were there other contenders, or you just kind of, this is where I want to go, or?
Exactly, really good question. So in Zimbabwe at the time, it was quite commonplace to sort of get out of Zimbabwe because there was two main sort of universities. But if you wanted to study and if the universities didn't have the depth that you wanted in that degree, then you'd seek university study elsewhere, whether it was South Africa, Botswana, America, Australia, UK. So those are all the options. My parents were keen for me to try America and Australia, so I applied for a number of places. I was hoping I'd land in America, but Australia was very quick to respond to my applications. And then I think University of Melbourne said yes, and University of Newcastle said yes. And I think Newcastle University was like 40% cheaper than University of Melbourne. So my parents were like, yep, that's where you're going. Fill out the forms, tell them you'll come in, and let's get you there. So that's how I ended up in Australia after my
I just find it so fascinating because, like, I'm originally from Germany, right? And I came as an au pair, a professional au pair, because I was I learned to be, like an educator in Germany, and then you can be a professional au pair and whatever. And for me, it was between Ireland, Australia, and United States, right?
Yes.
I looked at all three too, because I was like, and yeah, for me, it was the States that just kind of brought me to the better options, the better, like the better pay, the better, I don't know, the whole package deal just kind of was a bit better, suited me better. And that's how I ended up here. But again, I feel like it's almost like a flip toss, like a coin toss. It could have been Australia or it could have been Ireland. And I feel like it's so funny how, how it's just kind of, you have the fork in the road and it just kind of, somehow you just ended up here and it worked out, right? Like it was meant to be, I feel like.
Yes. Yeah, you sort of look at all the little yellow bricks on the road to where you got to today. And it's like, well, if I hadn't, gone to this university, then I wouldn't have had this opportunity, wouldn't have made me do this. And if I hadn't had that crappy relationship, then it wouldn't have helped me to find this good relationship. And now I've got these two beautiful boys, and who knows what would have happened if.
Yeah, right? I mean, it's really like that. Like you look at it and sometimes it seems like such a minor little thing at the time, right? Even, like I go with this job versus this job because they just, I don't know, I like this and this better and stuff, Sometimes it's a really small thing. And before you know it, it becomes like this major thing in your life. And you're like, wow, this could have totally turned out so differently. Like I could have not met these people. I could have not had this career and things. So I just find it really fascinating, to dive into like hearing people's stories and where they come from and where we're like some of those breadcrumbs, tracing back to what made you you. I think it's so beautiful.
100%. I totally agree.
Oh. Yeah, of course, I'm interested in the mindset that kind of kept you going when you were faced with challenges, which I'm sure there were plenty. Moving to a new country, being in a male-dominated industry. I mean, I'm sure there's, and working while being a mom and building your own business. I'm sure there's so many different things to juggle.
Yes, so let's start with the first one, I suppose. When you're looking at, moving to a new country, and I kind of think about that because I know lots of people remark, particularly those who've never left Australia or those who've never really done much traveling. They're just like, how could you do that? Like that's huge, And when I look back in my mind, I'm like, oh, was it really that big? Like, why don't I really give it that gravitas, I guess, that it has? And I think it's part of it is because I have been in boarding school since I was 8. So from the age of 8, I was sort of going to a school that was, I think the first school was 90 minutes away. So I'd just go on a little bus and go away and be there from Monday to Friday and then come back home on Friday and spend the weekend at home. So I did that all the way from what we call grade 3 to grade 7, which is, I don't know, year 1 to year 6 in Australia. I'm not sure what the equivalent is in Germany or America. But yeah, so when I did that in high school, and in high school it was even more. So I'd spend 3 weeks away at high school and then come back home for the weekend and then 3 weeks away. So coming to Australia felt like I was just going to another sort of boarding school where I was away for even longer, if that makes sense. I don't know, like I kind of extrapolated it and thought, well, I've done 1 week away, I've done 3 weeks away. What is 12 months away? I tried to go home every year. And, definitely the phones were in existence at that time. So I'd be calling my parents, I'd be looking to see what they were up to, checking in, making sure they're okay, making sure they were increasing my bank balance. Because as an international student, they were, the bank of mom and dad, really funding everything. So that also had its challenges, because Zimbabwe, which is where I'm from, at the time had lots of political dramas. I mean, lots of people in the audience may have heard of the president, Mugabe, Robert Mugabe. He was quite infamous. He brought us through the independence back in the 80s. But, over his tenure, things sort of deteriorated, and economically the country went into a bit of a dive. And so how that played out was like our parents would go for long periods of time without being paid. There'd be barely any groceries. There'd be long queues for fuel and for basics. And so, yeah, there's times when, here, the accounts would run dry, and it's like, what to do? So you're trying to juggle a university degree. You're trying to, as an international student, you can't work more than 20 hours a week. And so you're trying to get a job. You're trying to get a job that's decent enough to kind of cover the bills. So I don't know. I think during that time, it's really about, understanding what needs to get done. How do I need to survive here? I think there's a difference when you've got survival, and there's a difference when you've got like options, right? So this is like a survival sort of scenario, and just finding a job, finding support, cutting down to like noodles, baked beans and toast, and going to the shop. Like, I don't know if this happens in America, but here in Australia, you can go to the shops at like 11:30 before they shut at midnight, and then everything's like reduced and discounted because it's going to become like best before, I forget what the word, like it's got to expire. They can't sell it the next day, so they like slash the prices to like 50% off or 80% off. So me and my housemates would like go to the shop and get like the donuts at like $1. Not that donuts are very healthy, but you get a 12-pack of donuts for like $1.99. Get some chicken at half price, get some sausages at half price, and just make that go the distance with noodles.
Oh my gosh, I find myself in that so much. Yes. Because I remember the days as well, international student, because that's what I did here too. I continued after my au pair. I stayed and continued my education and things like that too. And yes, there was no bank of mom and dad. It was just me. So I had to figure things out too. And yes, here it's a lot of ramen noodles. I don't know if they have them over there, but like the little cup, right?
The mee goreng.
Yes, and tea. I drank a lot of tea and stuff. I don't know, sodas and whatever, bottled waters, because I just, I needed some flavor, but like I didn't, have the money for other things too. So yes, I know how to tighten that belt too.
Yeah, you just get moving, don't you? It's like, I got to do what I got to do.
Exactly.
It's not ideal, but this is what it is, and you kind of just make it work.
But I feel like it prepares you though, because I mean, looking back at it now, I feel like, yeah, it was a challenge at the time, but it was also a blessing, because you become resourceful, you become, and you like making it out of that, like you said, like it puts you into that mindset, and you can kind of dial back onto it, like you see what it's important, and then later you have options, and you can use that skill still, of like dialing into what is my focus, where do I want to go, what is it that I need to go with, where do I focus my energy on?
You're very right. Like the fact that you build that resilience and that adaptability somewhat in that situation, you can borrow that when you need it again, right? Like when when I look at when I was in a male-dominated industry and environment, and when I moved again to like a remote location and I didn't know anyone, I was the only female. I had to lead a team of very old men who'd been in the mine for a very long time. It's like, how do I do this? But I borrowed some of the confidence that I had. It's like, okay, Brenda, you've done hard things in your life. You've left your family. You've left what you knew. You started from scratch. You built relationships. You've built a community. You showed up, and you finished a degree, a 4-year, very challenging degree, right? So I borrowed the tools and the skills that I built, through those other parts of my journey, and leveraged them, and sort of, told myself, hey, if you can do that, then you can do this. Surely, like, yes, it's going to feel a bit strange right now. Yes, it can feel like you don't know what you're doing yet. And, will these people listen to me? Will I be judged? Will I be this and like that? But it's like, okay, no, what if I choose to focus on what I've achieved before and use that as my fuel, use that as my evidence, and then work it out as I go? And I think that really has served me throughout when I've gone through these challenges. And when I've had to navigate situations where I might feel like, oh, I don't know how this can pan out, I'm like, okay, Brenda, where else have you shown yourself that this is possible? Or where else have you managed to get through things that seems dicey, that you had no idea how they were going to work out, and they worked out fine?
Right. And I don't know how it is for you, but I sometimes had to be reminded of that because I almost forget. I mean, not that I forget where I come from, but like there's always so much happening and so much growth and so many things land on top of things, like for me, it's not even like, I don't think about like, oh yeah, like all the challenges I had in the beginning, moving here or moving out of my home and all those things. And then, like all the little, basically the stacking, like you just said, you're right, like you do the skill stacking and all the things that you did. And sometimes I almost forget, right? And then maybe I meet someone new and they're like, whoa, tell me about yourself and what did you do? And then they're like jaw dropping, like, what? Like, I mean, what? Is that all like one life? Like one person has done all this, and then I'm reminded of like, it is true. I have done so much, because sometimes I just kind of, I do forget, like not like in a, like I want to whatever, not, think about it, but like it just kind of, it becomes so natural, just like a part of you, and it kind of goes into the background, so it's good sometimes to be reminded of like, oh, I do have those skills. I have done so many hard things. Like I can do this. Like I really just need to hone in on it. And, like other people say that the imposter syndrome always comes back at every single stage, right? You always, when you try something new and you're in a new environment, like doing this podcast, right? You're like, oh my goodness, I don't know what I'm doing, but you know what? I'm just gonna figure it out. Just gonna click record, and we'll go with that.
Yeah, it's incredible when you look at that, right? Because somehow our brains, they are designed, I guess, to look for danger, and they're designed to look for, it's part of our old reptilian brain, I think they say, because we we used to have to be in the jungle, or in the savannah, and looking out for dangerous animals and dangerous things. And I think how that plays out for us now is that we focus more on bad feedback. We focus more on what's not working. We focus more on what's missing, right? Rather than really reflecting back to ourselves. And that's why maybe it's good sometimes to tell people our journeys, to tell people our stories, to sort of look back at these things and see, okay, actually, I've come quite far. Oh, this is actually quite significant. And one of the ways that I sort of try and get ahead of that, and I share this with my clients too, is to have a brag binder, or like I call it a fabulosity folder, which is really just a file that you have full of these cool things that you've done. So like maybe there's a degree certificate in there. There's a cool testimonial from people that said, oh, hi, Sandy, I just really loved, that the care you took while you're looking after our children. It's made the biggest difference. I'm so sad you're going, all those sort of moments that mean a lot, that represent who you are and what you've achieved. Because oftentimes it's very easy for us to forget it and move on to the next thing. But when you're especially going through a new situation, or you're trying to create something new, and you're like, oh, can I really do this? Who am I really? It's like, well, this is you. Like, look at these testimonials, look at this feedback, look at this email that your boss sent you and said you're a badass in presenting, or look at this stuff where people sent, accolades to you, or this industry award that you won or you're nominated for. Like, this is all stuff that, can stack and be a great reminder. And you can just quickly physically open it, so that if there's people around you, if there's no one around you to actually reflect it back to you, you can say, oh my gosh, what have I done? Oh yes. Oh yes. Oh my gosh, this is me. This is me. I'd be like, okay.
Yeah, like a highlight reel of you.
It's like a little pep talk, a little rev up, a little, yeah, let's go.
Funny that you say that, because actually I was just thinking about this in a way, because like I just got a message from like my own high school people, like people I literally went to school with in like first grade and stuff. Like I've known them for all this time, and they just, found me back on Facebook, and said, oh yeah, next year is, 25 years after school, like we want to meet up. And so, they've sent all these, pictures, and they're like, whoa, how did you come from, this little small town in Germany to here and stuff. And so I was thinking too, like, man, I should probably really start writing things down. I mean, also for my daughter, I was thinking, like it would be so cool doing it now, because at some point she will be interested in, hey, what was your life like? And I figured, rather than waiting another 20 years and things getting more dim and stuff, right? It'd probably be cool to just kind of write some things down and you know, like give her, a few of the highlights too. And now you say this, it just kind of makes me really want to dive into and like, like maybe combine the two. Maybe it's something for me and for her, just because.
Oh my gosh, that's so beautiful. And I think you definitely should. Like, I've heard this amazing talk that this guy does around legacy and how like the only thing he had like from when his dad passed away, and this is getting a little bit morbid, but was a cassette tape, and he'd sort of, I think he'd gotten cancer and throat cancer, and so eventually like down the line, like his voice had sort of disappeared, but he just had this cassette where he'd recorded this message for him. And I think he was 12 at the time. And he sort of just said, I'm sorry, I can't be there for you. I really love you, take care, or something like that. But it was just this precious last moment of a voice from his dad that he had and he held on to. And so it's so precious that we're living in an age where we can record materials, we can write down stories, we can leave a legacy for our loved ones, so that when we're gone, I mean, God forbid, it's not very quick, but like, there's something that they can pass, go back to. And so she can easily dial back into this and see your beautiful smiling face, see your energy, see your spirit, and hear your stories. And so if not for the purpose of connecting with amazing viewers in the audience, like this is part of the legacy too that you're leaving. So I think that's really quite beautiful.
Oh my goodness. I gotta watch what I say. She's only 4, right? Like she's about to turn 4. Oh my God, did I see that your birthday is in November 17th?
Yes, it is.
Yes. My daughter's is November 7th. So that's so
oh my gosh. So is she a Scorpio too?
Yes.
Is she a Scorpio sun? Yes. Is she a flyery yet? Is she like a little firecracker?
Oh, yes. Oh,
lots of sex.
She is the whole ensemble. She's got, yes, very strong mind, and she's oh my gosh. She came out like that, honestly. Like it was a C-section, and the doctor's like, she didn't want to come, for like, I was in hospital for 5 days, 5 in labor for 5. Okay? I really tried everything. I wanted to have this as a natural birth. It just did not happen. But anyways, and when they got her out finally, like apparently she was doing this one. Like
she had a power punch.
She doing it apparently, yeah. Like every time they swaddled her up, and she hated it. She would like scream and wiggle until she had at least one arm out. Every time that nurse came back, she's like, "What's going on here?" And she would put her back, and she would like and do it. And she's like, "Oh my God, she's only a few hours old. How does she do this?" But this, little did I know, this is just a teeny tiny preview, because she is that. Like, I think in a nutshell, this is her. Like, she will go once, and she's very determined. She wants to learn how to do the stairs. Well, she will walk up and down those stairs 100 times until she's got it. And anything else that she wants to learn and get into, that's what she does. And I love it. I really love it.
I know, it's quite beautiful looking at children. You think about, what is that mindset? What is that purity that they've got? That purity of, the lack of judgment, the lack of questioning, the lack of doubting. It's like, I used to be like that. Like I see my little, how old is he now? 2.5-year-old son. And he's just like, I want it. And he's, he knows that he wants it, and he's just not, he doesn't give up. He doesn't hold back. And I'm just like, I don't know if I've had this much, conviction in the things that I want. Like, how long do I hold on to things and keep wanting? Like, he's like, I want it and I want it now. And I'm not being good business. I try and negotiate. I try and compromise. He's like, nope, I want it. And I'm like, I can learn a few things from you. Like, that is a cool mindset to have. Like, fully determined, not letting go, no matter what. That's the energy that we have at one point in time in our lives, but it disappears, I guess, as society and exposure and all the things come through.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to, protect that a little bit, keep that in a bubble, and not to project too much onto it. And, like, because she's like me, like I see myself in her, like she's always has a tune, she's always bubbling and stuff. And I remember I used to be like that, until I was like very shy and very quiet somewhere along the way. It got all tuned out, and now I see her and I'm like, wow, yeah, I had all of that. I used to be like that, And don't get me wrong, sometimes it's really hard because, so much noise, and I'm like, oh, I just need to focus and I need to do something. And I just could use a little bit of quiet. But it's also so beautiful. Like you said, you just want to preserve it. If you want to pick some things out and get some reminders and learn from it. It's beautiful. It's really cool. I think having that privilege of seeing children, grow up. And I mean, I always loved it, like being an educator myself, but like having my very own, it's just like a whole different level. Like honestly, like seeing myself reflected in her is, it's obviously a whole new level. And brought back a lot of memories, challenges. It's challenging too, don't get me wrong, but it's also it's a beautiful thing.
Totally agree.
I think you kind of touched a little bit on that already, but what was it that kind of created that spark for you, to become like this beacon of light and the mentor for other women? Like, was there like a specific situation where you said, oh yeah, this is the starting point, where you're like, oh, here, or was it just like an evolution of like, so many things and it just kind of naturally progressed?
Yeah, I think you're right. Like, I think it was more just a compounding,
right.
Along the journey, there just kept being lots of, things that were presenting to me. And I was just like, what, there's got to be a better way. There's got to be, where is everyone? Where are the people? Where are the women of color? Where are the Black people? And like, I guess it started to showcase, first of all, when I was kind of, when you're asked the question in interviews or your bosses ask you, what's your 10-year plan? Where do you want to be in 10 years? So I was like, I don't know where I want to be in 10 years. So I'll like look around, because I guess I now understand, as a manifesting generator, for those who are into their human design on the core, I'm someone who responds. So I kind of look to my environment and look to what's happening out there, and I see what might be, inspiring for me and give me passion and fire me up. And then I respond to that and I, embrace it for myself. So I would look around, I'd look out there, and there wasn't that clear representation. And representation, is an interesting word, but so for me, that just meant, where are the women of color? Where are the women who are engineers that are like in general manager roles? And it didn't make sense. Along the way, I found out that, okay, well, these engineers may now just be like, I don't know, people and culture directors, or they might now be financial managers, or, so that their terms moved away from an engineering sort of title and would be other terms. So they'll still move up in leadership, but they were still engineers from a foundation. But just meant engineering was quite broad and let you do all these other things. So that was one element that I found out. But then the next one was when I went to these conferences to understand how did women rise. Then I started to see, well, where are the Black women on these panels? Like, where are the people? Where is the representation? Like, why is there never anyone here? And one day I was like brushing my teeth or something and thinking about it. And then I just heard a little voice say, where are you, Brenda? What are you doing? And I was just like, I'm like, who said that? Who that? But it was just like, what are you doing? And so that's like when I sort of said, okay, well, let me start somewhere. Like, I don't know everything. I don't know anything. I don't really know. And I sort of started this whole journey to figure it out, a journey to carve my own path, a journey to start negotiating, a journey to communicate up, down, across, managing, all the relevant relationships that I had to manage. And then starting to speak as well, like learning how to create a story, how to be engaging, how to have variety in my voice, and all those sort of tidbits, just so that I could one day be that woman that I wanted to see, right? There's always like, you can't be what you can't see, but then it's almost like flipping that and saying, well, I'm going to be what I can't yet see, so that others can see it eventually. So that was that was what, I guess, the compounding pieces that sort of led me to where I am, and even as I find new exciting tidbits around professional development or personal development, I'm like, oh my gosh, like, how come we don't hear much about this? So I'll go and create a podcast about it or talk more about it. And even that's probably what sparked my inclusive advantage. I was like, oh, there's not many Australian podcasts that really showcase the talent that we have, or really talk about the balance between diversity and inclusivity. Like, yeah, you can be the diverse chick, but you don't want to be the token chick, right? So what's the difference between tokenism and inclusiveness? And, what are the environments where you feel like you thrive, and what's the difference with them, right? So that women can sort of feel, okay, so it's not just me. No, I'm not just crazy. I don't feel like, I'm not imagining things. but also so that organizations and leaders can understand, okay, well, I play a big part in creating an environment that helps women to thrive in these industries. I play a big part in environments that make women leave, or women like to leave after they've got babies. Well, why? It's not just because they're no longer apt. It's actually because now they've got multiple priorities. They feel guilty. You don't support them at the workplace. The kids are always sick if it's winter. It's not their fault. They want to have some flexibility. You don't want to give them flexibility. And, so it's just all these sort of compounding bits, which in isolation can just seem like, oh, yeah, she wanted something different in that season of her life. But it's actually like, no, let's embrace this talent. Let's get these women on board and let's look after them through their seasons. And also men can benefit from this too. Men have for the longest of time not been able to be home with their children, right? When they're born. I see so many men now taking parental leave and spending 6 months with their babies and with their children and taking a snapshot, daddy day out, so it's like it's becoming cool. Everyone gets to win. It's not like a them versus us situation. It's just when we've got an inclusion and inclusivity, everybody wins. So yes, this is how I found my way to where I am today. Another long-winded road.
I mean, I really love it. And again, so many things in my head to respond to. But yes, when you said after the baby and the returning to work thing, I'm right there with you, because that's kind of why I left too. I actually did try. I came back, for 3 months. It's just,
and it just wasn't.
When she was 6 months old, then I was like, or like 4 months, I don't know. But like at some point I was just like we were both like really stressed out. Like we were trying to make it work. And it was, COVID time still, and you couldn't really give her anywhere. And, the family, like, they're like dentists and nurses and stuff. Like, you can't really give the baby there either, like they're always kind of in quarantine and blah, blah, blah. So we're like, okay, it's just the two of us kind of thing. And, so he was staying home and he was like holding her while meetings. And then I was it was just so much. And then like my boss was just constantly on my case, like, where are you with this? Why are you slow with this? And blah, 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 blah. And I was just, and he was like constantly on my case. And I was just like, I just can't. Like, I already feel like so bad, like there were days where I was literally like from 8 to 8 or something. I was gone all day at work just to kind of catch up on things and just kind of do things and stuff, And like all I got is like crap from him. And then I was so sad and cried all my way home because I missed my daughter completely all that day. And that's all I wanted to see was my daughter and stuff. And my husband telling me what a shitty day he had because he had to, cancel meetings because she was crying. And, it was just like so much going on and like nobody there to really, like there was no window, no opportunity to kind of like, hey, what can we do? And like when I brought it up at work, they actually wanted to, they basically let me go for a second there. And then they wanted to bring me back instead of full time. They wanted to put me on like 25 hours or 20 hours on a 3 month trial basis and stuff. And I mean, I had already like worked there for, I don't know, 6 years, right? I basically they got rid of my tenure, right? Like it was like an easy peasy thing, right? They were like, well, and after 3 months, we reconvene and see if this works for us, basically. You know what I mean? Like from me having a secure workplace to kind of Xing me out. And it was just like so frustrating, like it's already so overwhelming. And I mean, it was all like, like with COVID and like all this craziness and changes. And then, becoming a mom and, nobody could come and visit and help. I mean, there was like so much going on. And then that on top of everything, it was just, and we were just like, I mean, it's not worth it. Like I just, we were all just, it was too much for everybody and too much to handle. So just something had to give, and that was my job. And honestly, I haven't been back since, because every time I think of a regular 9 to 5, like I always think of that. And I was just like, I can't, like, I just can't, like, I don't want that. So I've been forging my own way forward as well. Not really knowing where to go and where my way will lead me, but just kind of trying different things and following my heart and just trusting that there will be some way, some end of the tunnel somewhere. It will get me somewhere. And
it's a lost opportunity, right? Like if if this is happening in multiple workplaces, right, where women are returning to work, but there isn't that support system, there isn't that empathy, there isn't that level of understanding, there isn't that restructuring of roles or, accountabilities just to get things mixed more and spread more across the team, then there's lost opportunity. Women like you who are like fantastic players, who are very smart, very innovative, very diverse perspectives that you bring to the table are now no longer participating. And so that's why I think I see so many women rising in like building up their own businesses, building up their own platforms where they can run things around their children, where they can dial in when it suits them, when they can do things so that they are able to create a life on their own terms, right? So
yes,
I don't know if it's a bad thing, but it's certainly something that could be improved. If we want our daughters to be in a workplace that values them and that appreciates them and supports them, then I think it's an important and worthy cause to still pursue regardless.
Exactly. Yes, that was another part. Yeah, I just didn't want to work for other people anymore. I was always working so hard. I was, the last one to leave. But, like there was not much, let's just say, credit, right, that you would get for that, like working hard and doing your job and doing 15 other people's things, because they were just not doing a good job. So it ended up on my plate. Oh, Sandy, you handled this so well, why could you not take this on too? And I ended up with, an ever more plate. And in the beginning, I was like, oh, yes, of course, I want to show you I can handle more. But then at some point, I was like, dude, you got to take something away if you want to give me anything else, because I can't do any more, like it just, and, it was just so hard. They didn't quite realize all the things, and even though I voiced my opinion and things, right, but it was just, it seemed like, deaf ears, and people just didn't understand. And they were, also more men, or like way past, like I was just starting out. They were like very seasoned, on their way out kind of people. So there was just so much of a big gap. They didn't see where I'm coming from. Do you know what I mean? Like the young, just starting out couple, and, having a young baby, kind of thing, being pregnant, whereas their kids were out of the house in college and stuff, like there was just such a gap that there was no more bridge, like they couldn't, I guess, remember how it was, way back when. It was like,
Oh, you've covered on so many, so many elements, which they were part of my frustrations too. And when I communicated and help with my clients, like I discussed this stuff with them, I'm like, okay, there's things that we call busy work, or NPT, non-promotable tasks. Do not do as many of those things, right? And, there's that balance where it's like, okay, you're doing a great job. Sorry, my little one is here, and he just scared me because I didn't hear him come in. You're doing such a great job. You are like, we want you to do more. Hello, little one. How about you get one of these phone numbers? Let me see the podcast recording, okay? So you want to take on the extra load. You want to do the work, but when am I going to be paid for it? When am I going to be appreciated for it? When is this going to reflect, in a bonus, or reflect in some sort of appreciation, not just stack, and where is this at? And they can't recognize that this is actually putting down a mental toll on your mental health, that piece of the puzzle too. So, very passionate about helping women to communicate effectively, ask about tasks, what do you want me to drop if you want me to take this on? When do you need this by? Because at this point, this will only be delivered, next month with the other priorities that I've got on, so those sort of strategies and things to say help women, because it's like, well, no one told us this. This is not part of the curriculum or the theory at the university or in the class. So, so many of these strategies, which are just profound and can make all the difference between staying and being effective, or, leaving and being burnt out and overwhelmed and exhausted. So.
Right. No, but that's what I used to do too. I would go to my boss. I'm like, yo, I have like 3 tasks, and everybody's telling me they're all critical. So which one's the most critical? Because I can't do them all at the same time. I gotta, so which one do you want first? And then please, tell the other person that, you are my boss. You want this first. This is priority. And then, you supersede whatever else, right? Because like there were multiple people too I was reporting to. I'm like, well, like everybody is the most important. And, I'm like, yeah, well, somebody got to trump somebody. You got to, because at the end, when it all falls to pieces, right? Like they're all the first ones to kind of bash on you too. So, and at some point I was just like, no. The buck doesn't stop with me. Like it got to go back, like you guys are kind of drop. Like you got to, you got to sort it out then with each other or something.
And it's almost like a bit of a shift in mindset, right? Because it's like you're almost shifting your perspective from being just an employee to actually being a leader in your career, right? It's like, actually, I know the things that I expect. I know what role I play. I know where I'm accountable. I understand what part I play. And as you sort of have a mindset of, what is it really? It's like a self-leadership mindset. It's like a this is what I'll take, this is what I won't take. And when you know that it's for yourself versus like a self-doubt or a people-pleasing mindset or a maybe if they see me do just one more thing, it's like there's a different energy between that versus like, I know where I'm going, this is my role, this is my stuff, you do that, that's your role. There's a reframing that has to happen. There's a belief, because I don't know what it is. Like, have you ever had that confident guy on the team when you try and, give him some of your work? He's just like, no, that's not mine, They're like firm and they're like, that's not mine. Like, and you're like, oh, shit, no, never to ask Jack to do that, but why? Because he's so convicted that actually, that's not part of my puzzle. And I'm not doing any of that. That's non-promotional task, or it's not very visible activities, or it's not part of the KPI. I don't know. There's just something that they have that's different to what I have. And I think it's a mindset shift around what is your ownership of your space and how can you communicate that effectively so people respect your boundaries too.
Right.
It's a long topic.
I know, yeah, but it's so powerful too. And like you said, it's a good thing to talk about and well, be mindful of what you showcase to your children and the people around you, right? Because that's important. That's what they pick up. They pick up what you do, what you show up as. Right? Not necessarily what you talk about. And when you please do this when you're in this situation, but they watch you. How do you handle conflict? How do you talk with, other people, with your boss? How do you handle those things? And so that's what they really pick up. And so, being mindful of that, what it is that you want to teach. Yes. Before they kind of start on that. For the first time, and bad word comes out and you're like, ooh, yes, okay, I do say that.
Where did you hear that? Oh, that's the word I said.
Yes, exactly. You're like, ooh, that's me. Okay, my bad. Or like, ooh, that's you, Daddy. That's so you. It's so funny. Sorry, I could go on with that. Oh, okay. Getting back to it. What kind of helps you when you are in the midst of something? Let's just say you have like a lot of projects you're struggling with, right? You're juggling a lot of things, like work, blah, children, whatever. Like what helps you, stay grounded? What helps you stay focused? What helps you not get overwhelmed? Or if you then do get overwhelmed, what helps you to get back on track? Is there something that, you could share with our listeners, with me?
Yeah, I suppose I like to sort of see, so I think everyone's probably quite familiar with Steve Covey's little 4-square framework, which is around urgency. So what's the priority versus what's the what needs to be done by me, so like is this very much needed now? Does that have to happen now, or is it something that can be delayed? And is it something that has to be done by me, or is it something that I can delegate? So I like to sort of look at that and see where are the things on my to-do list, where exactly do they sit, so I can sort of prioritize and sort of push things to the side. Because right now I'm in a similar situation. I've got quite a few things that are happening, like even as I was speaking about some workshops. I've got a workshop coming up next week. I've got some coming up, next couple of days, but I've also got proposals that I'm presenting for corporates. So it's like, and I've got school holidays. I've got the kids here. My husband works fly in, fly out. So he's not even here for 7 days of the week, and he's back the next 7. So it's just like, okay, I know that I've got 6 hours of the day where I'm going to have some focus hours. Which of these 5 things that are on the to-do list need to happen now, and what can I do for them? And so I like to sort of prioritize And then I like to use like a timer, because it's so easy to get distracted, digitally. Ping, ping, ping. Someone calls you, someone sends a message, you see a notification come up, and you're like, oh, what's this? And you get up down a rabbit hole, So I like to just put like a 30 or 40-minute timer and just do something on my to-do list that needs to happen. And I think it's quite interesting how much you get done in like 30 minutes, So I like to do that to focus. And if there's things that I can do to look for some external support, I also leverage that. So like if I've got the in-laws available, I'll say, hey, you want to have your grandkids for the day? Or see how I can, because sometimes it's just a moment of being present with your children. Like they just want to have a good 15, 20-minute play, and then they'll kind of leave you to be like, whereas if you're like, no, go away, no, go away, no, go away, like it's like the time doesn't become as effective as it would have been if you just played with them for 10, 15 solid minutes, enjoyed that time, then they kind of leave you. So these are the secrets that I've kind of sort of learned and like I leverage to prioritize, schedule, and use a bit of a clock and sort of delegate and use others to support me through that as well. And try and make it fun if I can. I have some music playing in the background from doing something that I really enjoy, like cleaning the house. Like it's not exactly exciting, but has to be done. So it's like pop on some cool music, dance it out, and make it fun so that at least, there's a cool energy about while you're doing it.
See, we're clicking here. That's me too. And yes, I do the prioritization too. Like when shit hits the fan, right? Like I'm like, okay, what is it that needs to be done? Clearly, there's too much going on. What is the most important thing? Like, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Like I don't know, I'm did the shopping, then this and that and blah, and dinner. Okay, let's just focus on dinner and stuff, right? Like that's the most important task. Everybody needs that to be happy and cool. So I do that. And yes, I found like a little clock that when you turn it, right, it gets gives a color, right? Like 15 minutes, and then it has 15 minutes of color. And so that has been super effective with my daughter, because she's at home, right? She's not going to school. She's with me. And so yes, sometimes it's just very challenging to have the focus hours or to get any productive thing done. But I found, putting it on 15 minutes and be like, okay, I'll just focus on one thing, write that one email, answer that one question, figure one thing out, and then I'll be back there and I play with her for 15, like you said, right? Give her that full attention, and then I might sneak away again and do another 15 and stuff like that. It has really helped. And yes, you would. Yeah, I was surprised too, like how much you can get done in the little breakout sessions too, like versus just be like, oh, I didn't do anything. Like if I had at least, 15 minutes here, 15 minutes there, and I figured at least out something, then I can be okay. And like, okay, I did something, it's okay. Not all the days are super productive, right? Like even with all the time in the world you got, right? Sometimes, yes, like you said, you get in the rabbit hole, you're trying to just pay the one bill, and then ding, and there's a call and blah, blah, blah. Before you know, 2 hours are gone. You're like, no, what happened?
And the bill hasn't been paid still.
Exactly, that too. Where did I actually start out with? Oh
no. It's crazy.
Yes, it goes so fast. But yes, the focus, the little time schedule that helps me as well. And yes, keeping it fun for sure. Music is also helping me, just kind of like, yeah, if I can just have her there and just kind of, turn on some music and just kind of do my, I don't know, dishwasher and laundry, and, like just make it a little fun at least, right? Like, I mean, has to be done anyways, but at least, I can jam, or like, I mean, sometimes I listen to a podcast too or whatever, but like, make it something more productive, more fun for me, right? I try to, what do you call it? Habit bundling, right? Like, make it something I have to do and something I want to do. It just kind of mix and match to make it better use of my time. So yes, that's so cool. I like it. Okay. I have one more question. So if you want to inspire women, right, to speak up, to be right, to step into their role, to step into the light, stop dimming their light, like what would you say to someone that is just basically starting out, someone that, what is like an advice, or maybe like a push, a spark that you could give, like, do this, start with this. I don't know. Is there something that you could say, if this woman is listening right now and she's feeling underappreciated and she doesn't know how to get started on her journey, Is there something?
Yes, if someone is feeling unappreciated, they don't know where to start, just write a bit of a list. That brand binder that we spoke about, that fabulosity folder, write a list of 10 things, 10 amazing things that you've done and you've achieved. They can be as big and as small as you like, whether it's having a child, bringing, making amazing cakes, chocolate cakes, just the things that you know inherently you're fantastic at, and remind yourself that, look, you're amazing. That's the first step, is to remind yourself, because oftentimes I think one of the mistakes is we look so much for outside validation. But when we give ourselves that validation, there is so much power in that. And the beauty in that is that we are available 100% of the time.
Exactly.
So if we've got a little voice on inside us, which is telling us, you're amazing, you're awesome, you can do this, you deserve better, let's see what we can create to make this better, your life will shift. And this moment will shift and pass, and you'll create an amazing outcome.
That's so true. Yeah. Yeah, because as long as you're dimming your light and you're for lack of better, but like, like you're I'm imagining, the Beauty and the Beast, that rose under that glass, right? Like, as long as you're there and you let yourself be put in that glass, right? Like, it's a choice, right? Like, you could say, no, I'm too big for that glass. Like, take that glass off. I need more than that, right? But you got to get there by yourself. Like, nobody can tell you where your ceiling is, right? Like, you got to figure that out for yourself. And so once you have developed that, to be like, no, that glass is no longer fitting me, then
that's a
like
beautiful
you start
visual
to shift, because like either it shifts in your world, in your right, like with your coworkers or with your boss or whatever, you find a way to make that work for you, or with your partner or whatever needs to shift around to make it better for you, or you attract different things, right? Like, you will find a different job that then gives you what you're looking for. You find a different relationship, or whatever needs to happen, that, so that you can bloom better once you are aware of, right, that you are made for more, right? And you don't need that external validation. Like, if they don't see your dream, if they don't see what you the vision that you have, they don't share that. That's your vision, right? You can't expect anybody else to share that vision. So if you have that, and you find that, and you hold on to that, and really align with that, like, the universe will, help you manifest it.
Do the rest. Yeah. It's powerful. So powerful.
Very. Yeah, but it's a journey, right? To really get there. I mean, yeah. It took a long time for me too, to befriend my inner critic, and to turn that inner dialogue and be like, yes, my biggest supporter, and not look for the outside validation. It's just like how we were raised, how things come to be, like we're not really yeah.
And it's not a once and done.
Oh yeah, no, that's true. Yes, exactly.
Constantly having to turn that volume down on that little inner critic. It's like, thank you, I hear you, but not today. Thank you, but I've got places to be, people to see, and a powerhouse to be. So yeah.
Yes, but it's becoming easier, right? I guess as you stack that file in your folder, your fabulous folder or whatever, it becomes more easy. You're easier reminded, you're easier to go back to that. In the beginning, it seems like some more of a struggle, and you're like, oh, like, am I really that fabulous? Okay. But at some point, you're just like, yo, I'm just kind of drifting. I'm in a negative spin. No, let's go back to my happy place, my fabulous file, because I know I'm that person. I don't want to be that person, But yes, I remember it's a tough place to start out, but I think it's a tough place to start out anything. Riding a bike, you're not just kind of starting and doing it. You're not riding a car just by, sitting in it once. It's just one more thing that you just need to practice and come back to. Oh, yes. Yes. Oh, this is beautiful. I love it.
So many gems we covered, Sandy.
Right? Right.
I'll be sure to come back to this episode and listen when I'm feeling down and I'm wondering if I can do anything, because clearly I've given some good advice and this good headspace that I'm in. But yeah, I'd love to take a dose of my own medicine when the time, calls for it.
Yes. Yes. Well, and you said it in another podcast that the past doesn't define us. Let it refine you and add it to your role in creating positive change in the world. I mean, I was like, what? I love it.
Yeah, that was one that just kind of, that was a download actually, because I said it once and I was like, oh my God, that's amazing. Let's coin this.
Very
the past
powerful
doesn't define you, and actually let it refine you and add to your role. Because oftentimes we want to, dismiss the past, we want to hide the past, we want to wish it didn't happen. But if we can reframe it and look at it as a diamond, simply getting placed under pressure so it can shine even brighter. Then you can embrace it.
There was just something Mel Robbins said. She said, maybe your path in life is hard right now because your calling is so much higher. And I was like, yes.
Wow. Goosebumps. That's good. That's good.
Right? Yeah, I put it on my wall. I was like, oh my God, yes. Yes. And another, experience have to come into your life for a reason, and we need to embrace them. Yes, that's something you said as well. I'm like, man, see, so powerful. And I mean, the best way to predict your future is to create it, right?
Yes.
Really some really, I mean, I think, I live on some of those things, right? Like some of those quotes that really speak to me. Like I pluck them around my desk and just kind of, when I'm feeling low, I'm like, oh yes. There's a tough way, or it's a tough moment, but it's because there's, right, usually it's darkest before the dawn, right? Like it pushes one more time, it grinds you really down. Is this really what you want? Are you sure? And you're like, yes, I do. But yes, it's still a struggle. Every new thing we start, every new thing you try out. But I feel like that uncomfortable feeling, which you said in the beginning, right, that is supposed to protect us, sometimes it for me at least, it's turning more into the excitement, right? Like it's still the uncomfortable feeling, but I'm now thinking about, like, hey, like I know this feeling, but you know what? It's also, I'm excited about this because I want to do this next step. I want to face my fears. I want to push the limits. I want to see what else I can do, And so it's becoming more manageable that way, just reframing it and being like, hey, I know this one. I know, it's not life or death. It's not life or death. I'm not gonna, if I mess up on the podcast, if I don't know, don't get this and that right, that's okay. I'll just show up again and try it again tomorrow and make it better. I learned from it. But just kind of feeling into it and being authentic and believing in yourself. I guess it's definitely a big part of pushing forward and creating your own path and being that beacon of light that you are shine so brightly as well. I really, really love it. I'm so proud. I'm so proud to see you, and you flood my newsfeed and ever more cool things. I hope I can become you when I grow up.
No pressure. Thank you so much, Sandy. It's been amazing. Going down memory lane, really reflecting on the mindset and the things that we need to be mindful of at each opportunity and each curve in the road. Mm-hmm. And to keep going and to embrace fear and be excited instead for what is on the other side of it.
Yes. Just go out there, carve the life, create the life that you want. Just go for it. No one's going to hand it to you. So the only person you can create it is you, right? Whoever's listening, go out there, make it happen. Oh, well, thank you, Brenda. It's been so fun. I really, really love talking with you.
I appreciate you having me on your platform, Sandy. Thank you so much.
Of course. Oh man, hold on before we turn off. Is there if somebody wants to connect with you, like what would be a good place? I can put it in the show notes, but is there something you want to address?
No, so if anyone wants to come and connect with me, feel free to come onto my LinkedIn, come onto my Facebook. if you're looking to up-level your speaking, your visibility, or your career progression, I am your lady. So hit me up and let me know if you're interested in any of the things that we've discussed today.
Yes, yes, I love it. Yes. Wonderful, wonderful. I'll definitely put the links below in the show notes so you can connect and reach out. Yes.
Awesome.
Again, thank you, Brenda. I wish you all
Thank
the
you,
best.
Sandy.
Keep going, shoot for the moon.
You too. I'm proud of you. Keep going.